And away we go. It's the DFS Early Bird presented by Awesemo.com. Dan Trafford, Dave Lockren along with you on this Monday morning, getting ready for a 9-game National Basketball Association slate. The All-Star break is just ahead of us. It's not on Valentine's Day this year, Lofty. Have you been able to make plans accordingly, even though the All-Star break has not fallen properly in your work schedule?
Yeah, man. Come on now. It's kind of unfortunate because the NBA schedule makers have really done us a solid over the past however
3 or
many
4 years, yeah.
Yeah. Look, I'm looking forward to the All-Star break. It's nice to get a little respite from the daily grind. Yeah, you get a few days off. I got some stuff to do. I'm gonna do some stuff around the house. We're put in some new cabinets in the kitchen. So I got some work to do. I actually enjoy doing that stuff. So get some work done over the break. Rest a little bit, maybe. Get back on it, and then we'll be back and ready to rock. So what do we got? We got four days left, right? That's it. 4 days. The 14th is a Thursday. I think it's a 3-game slate.
That's correct, yeah.
And then we've got a pretty big break there. So there we have it. Look, we'll figure it out. I'll be honest, though. We generally don't even go out on Valentine's Day.
Sure.
And I have a very weird habit of calling it Thanksgiving. Look, I don't know why. Right? I swear.
It's kind of like for my wedding, I kept on calling cocktail hour happy hour. Like I couldn't get it right. I just kept, what's going on for happy hour?
Right, which makes more sense than calling Valentine's Day Thanksgiving. I remember.
Well, you're thankful for Justine. That's how you spin that. Come on, that's easy.
Debatable. So I'm kidding, of course I am. So I call up reservation. I'm like, hi, I'd like to book a reservation for Thanksgiving. She's like, wait a second. I think you got some time, right? She didn't say that, but I'm like, I mean Valentine's. They don't even sound similar. It's a huge issue, and I don't know where it originated from, but
that's good.
Yeah. We used to, because we've been together for a while now, and like money was a problem. We just go out the next day when it's like you're literally on Valentine's Day, you're paying twice as much for pretty much,
if not more. Yeah.
If not more, for pretty much the same meal. So we just go out the next day. Who knows? What's the difference, right? Seriously, what's the difference outside of it not being the actual Hallmark holiday? It's a dumb holiday.
It is a dumb holiday.
Stupid. Makes no sense.
I agree.
Go buy a $6 card.
Yeah, and you have to they get you with the shipping on flowers. If you had to go that, it's bad. It's all bad. I'm not doing it this year.
Frugal is not a bad thing if you're just basically saying like, hey, F your system. You know what I mean?
Right.
You buy a card for the same card from the dollar store for 99 cents. Do you buy from wherever else for $6? Like I'm buying a piece of paper,
right,
that has some words written.
It probably has freaking glitter on it, which is the worst invention ever.
Exactly. Right. Seriously, how can you justify that? It gets me angry to know that I'm a sucker, and that's why I don't do it.
Yeah, now with the kids, it's all bad. It's all bad. But I will say that it is impressive how they've made it into such a large industry over the years. So good on Hallmark, and good on all of the, and I've made the comment many times over. I am always fascinated by how supermarkets and retail stores change from one holiday to the next, and how soon you see them after. And I finally talked to someone at a Stop and Shop, a manager there, because I was so fascinated. Basically, once the stock for one thing goes out, the new stock goes up, no matter when that happens. They don't replace the stock for Christmas or Thanksgiving or Easter or July 4th. It's once that stock goes, the new stock goes in. So if you're July 4th, you may start seeing Halloween candy because they got to fill the shelves.
You do see it real early. That's a good point.
So it's a pretty funny. Valentine's Day was out the day after Christmas in and around in our area. So I will be happy when it's over. It's my wife's birthday on the 4th. It's Valentine's Day. It's my middle kid's birthday on the 18th of February. And then it's my oldest on the 10th. So it's a very expensive time of year to get through. It's a gauntlet. And We just try to see ourselves our way
That's
to the other side.
really weird. I was actually just text messaging someone, and I text messaged the word that it wrote was gauntlet, as you said,
Hey,
gauntlet,
see,
which is really strange because it's not really an oft used word. Okay, let's go.
certainly would be something we would say here on this podcast.
We live
Let's
in a simulation.
well, it's true. I mean, if ever I was convinced of it, it's been the past few years that there's something crazy going on.
It's kind of
Let's
funny though that if you say you live in a simulation, it's like,
right.
oh yeah, I could see that, but then someone else has something, like throw one out there, like we didn't go to the moon or something. You're like, you're crazy, bro. But if you say we live in a computer simulation, they're like, I know, man, it's totally true. I find it funny that we're
Well,
so.
that we have a former sub who I don't know if he listens anymore, but Rob, Gordon Hayward, as many knew him in FV chat and became, I forget what his name was after that, but how the pros do it or whatever he is on Twitter. He's a big
Rudy was offsides as another.
right. That's what it was. He's a big conspiracy theory guy, and I like dragging him on it a lot because they're absurd, a lot of them. But there are some that I enjoy. Like there's some that I get into, and there's some I like reading on, and there's some I get into enough. And it is that moment where I'm like, well, those conspiracy theories, those don't exist. The ones I think exist are just fine. They're
Barron
fine.
Trump one was fascinating too.
Oh my, yeah, I did see that.
The adventures of Barron.
The time travel. Oh, so good.
Crazy stuff.
So
Hey,
good.
if anything else, they're entertaining.
Exactly. There's something to do at 2:00 in the morning on YouTube. Let's be
honest. It's not like everyone
Like,
believes them. That's exactly what it is. You're right. 100%.
You stayed up too late. You realize that you have to be up in 3 hours. You go on YouTube. That's what happens.
Yep.
So whomever, I have to get the user's name, whomever timestamps when we start NBA, it's going to be right now over there on YouTube. If you are watching us on YouTube and you're a subscriber and you've already liked the video, you have one more step. We are giving away a free year of Awesemo.com membership. The gentlemen who run the site, you may know them, are celebrating 1 year since their launch, and they would like to give away a free sub to one of you, those watching on YouTube, for being loyal and being on board since the beginning. So here in the comment section below, like the video, subscribe to the channel. We want to know what your favorite moment to date on the podcast has been. It can be anything from Lofty and myself, Adam and Emac. Let's be honest, it's not going to be Adam and Emac, but it can be Josh and Jake back when it was the night shift, as it was called, or it can be anything in between. So any moment, anything that's happened here on the podcast, leave a comment. You'll be entered in. One person will be chosen at random on February 13th on the NBA Strategy Show that day for a year-long subscription. I will also give you a tip. I don't know if it's still going on, but if you go to Twitter and go to Awesemo_com, at Awesemo_com, there's another contest there. So if you want to spread out your entries and get 2 in, you'll want to reply to the tweet over there about what's the one thing you've learned from Awesemo.com thus far. Let's dive in here, Dave, and we have 9 games on the slate. We will tackle this position by position and get through it pretty quickly because it's a first look for all of us here. We will say that Harden is 12K. He is questionable, more leaning towards probable, according to local sports talk. Coach Mike D'Antoni said he doubts Harden will miss Monday's game, so it seems as though he should be fine. Has a shoulder injury that's a bit of a nagging injury, probably just a maintenance one that the All-Star break could help with if he does not play, but we know that is not the case. Westbrook, Walker, Doncic is point guard, shooting guard eligible now on DK. Lillard, Russell, Lowry is 7-2 on DraftKings against Brooklyn here. McCollum, Bledsoe, Chris Paul is at 6,900. And then you get Levine and Lou Williams before you have to scroll down. I guess a quick take here on the more expensive. It's Westbrook, Harden, Giannis, and Jokic. Throw in Paul George and Karl Anthony Towns. Harden, Westbrook, how do they fit into your plans with this high-priced slate of players?
It's funny. If you wonder whether or not Chris Paul hurts James Harden's assist rate, I mean, there's really no denying how much effect it has. Now, 2-game samples don't exactly do us much justice, But Harden has 2 games where he has
Mm-hmm.
only 1 or fewer assists this season, right? 2 games with 1 or fewer assists all season long throughout every game that he's played. Both of them have come in his last 2 games. Now, it was wild to see James Harden with a 42.2 rebound,
That box
1
score
assist
was
game,
insane to see. Yep.
right? Right? I mean, 42. I'm thinking was he learning from Eric Gordon or something? You just don't see that. But it definitely takes some shine off. There's no question, because when Chris Paul's out, Harden is racking up assists, at least enough to where if he only scores 35 points, now you're generally in okay shape, because he gets it done with the assists and the steals. 1 assist in back-to-back games, not cool, not cool. And he's got 78 points over that span. So I mean, he's still unbelievably impressive, but the price tag has come down. I don't have an issue with it, but I'm probably not getting there. I just think that Chris Paul being back and seeing his minutes no longer limited is definitely going to be a bit concerning. Played 35 minutes in that last game. Harden will still get some run without him, right? He'll probably still play like 13 or so minutes with Paul off the court.
Right.
Because one of them, if Paul's off the court, like those 13 minutes that Paul's not playing, Harden will be on the court. And that's the way it should be. I mean, it's smart by D'Antoni to do it that way. So at 12K, look, against Dallas, I don't hate it at all. I just, wish Chris Paul wasn't active. That would help me out. Russell Westbrook, man, I know Paul George has been the go-to scorer recently, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 straight triple doubles for Russell Westbrook. I mean, come on now. On DraftKings, though, and I say this a lot, but it is important, he's just more valuable on DraftKings.
Right.
You get the triple-double bonus. You get a double-double bonus. You only lose a half point for turnovers. Like, he had 58.5 DraftKings points last game against Houston, right? On FanDuel, he had 50. That's a pretty big difference. He lost 10 points for turnovers, and he didn't.
He had the quad double with the 10 turnovers. Yeah, amazing.
Exactly. Yeah, and he didn't get it. Or he didn't get. You don't get bonus points for that, so
right.
It kind of hurts. Luka Doncic is interesting. Well, we'll talk about. Screw it. I'll talk about him now. He had a really rough game against Milwaukee. Of course, I had a decent amount of him. You get that nice pace-up spot. Sure, it's a tough matchup, but you're thinking, all right, this guy's usage is just sky high. Played only 27 minutes. Just struggled. No real peripherals there. It bounces back with another 50 fantasy point game. He's down from 9,500 to 92 to 8,700 on DraftKings. That to me is just, if we're getting him at that price, at a mid 8K price point, what is there not to like about Doncic, right? And he's 9,800 on FanDuel, 8,700 on DraftKings. Yeah, I have no issues with that at all. And then, another tough matchup, but still a good spot or a good price point is D'Angelo Russell. Like, I wasn't afraid to play Dennis Smith Jr. here against Toronto the other day. Did he have a huge game? No, he had 33 fantasy points, but mind you, he only played 30 minutes in that game. I mean, he played 40 and 35 the 2 before that. If he gets up to 35, 37 minutes, you're really happy with a $5,900 Dennis Smith, regardless of matchup. And he only made 4 field goals, but still took 17 shots, had 3 steals, 6 assists, and 13 points with 4 rebounds. Like, when you're getting those minutes at a certain price, they're just worth considering, right? And by the way, I like Dennis Smith a lot here against Cleveland at 6,400. So I'll get that out of the way now. But yeah, Russell, tough spot, no question, but he's still 7,800, and I think it's very fair to look at that in a 227 total game. The truth is, on this 9-game slate, the point guard position is deep again.
Yep.
There are a lot of spots you can go here. I like Dennis Smith over these 2 guys, but these 2 guys I'm about to mention are still fine because of their prices. Jamal Murray's returned and in both games has 40+ fantasy points. He's jumped right back into a mid 30-minute per game role, which you have to like that. And then Darren Collison, his production's a little bit more unreliable and his ceiling isn't very high, but I do like him against a bad Charlotte defense. But still, I have Dennis Smith above both of them because I expect the minutes to get back up there. The usage on this team that he's playing with is going to, think about it. Like, who else is really going to siphon away shot volume from him? Nobody. So that's why I like him so much. And just to close it out here before we move to shooting guard, if you're talking about some cheap guys, Colin Sexton, do I know what his minutes are going to look like now that Brandon Knight is here? No, but I still think that last game, okay, on the 9th, they got blown out by the Pacers.
Mm-hmm.
And Brandon Knight in that game, that was his debut with Cleveland. He played 12 minutes. So if you look at this, if you look at the game flow on Popcorn Machine or on wherever you get game flows, Colin Sexton actually, so this is interesting, actually did close that game out, played the final 7 minutes.
Yep.
So his minutes were definitely down in that one, and it didn't have to do with the fact that it was a blowout. Brandon Knight played regular like bench shifts in the first half and then played like 5 minutes in the second half. But last thing though, Jordan Clarkson, both of these guys I do still think have that upside to get well above 30 minutes, and they play on a team where there's still so much usage to be concentrated between the two of them, especially with Hood and Burks gone.
Wanted to point out to further elaborate your point that not surprisingly, Sexton and Knight did not appear on the court at the same time. So it's not like they had crossover minutes, strict 1-for-1 sub, it would seem there. Didn't watch the game, but looking the other place, Add More Funds, which we talked about on here, addmorefunds.com has NBA game flows as well, which is where NBA Wowie is. So if you want to stay in one place, you can do both in one. What about your thoughts on Kyle Lowry here against the Brooklyn Nets? This is a Nets team that over the past 10 games is highest in pace in the NBA. There were about, I think, 11th or 12th regularly on the season, but over the last 10, number one. Is Lowry in a spot here where you think there's upside, or with the addition of a Marc Gasol, who's known to facilitate from the center spot, are assists going to be down for Lowry, and thus price point still a little bit too expensive, even in low 7Ks?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll have to wait and find out, right? I also want to see, this is important too, I want to see what Gasol's role is going forward. Keep in mind, he played off the bench last game. You know, he played off the bench. I think he only played like 18 or 19 minutes behind Serge Ibaka. Let me see here. Marc Gasol played 18 and a half minutes. Yeah, 18 and a half minutes off the bench. Serge Ibaka in that same game played 29 minutes. So you do the math across 48 minutes, you know, that's pretty – yeah, he backed them up. And I haven't looked, but it would make sense. It lines up perfectly. Lowry only played 6 minutes alongside Gasol in that game. It should be surprised to no one he didn't have any assists there, but neither did Gasol. I really don't know. They played only 6 minutes together. By the way, only 10 possessions in those 6 minutes. That's kind of strange. I just don't think you necessarily need to go to Lowry here. And the truth is the price okay? Yeah, the matchup against the Brooklyn team that leads the league in pace over the last 30 days, I really don't hate it. But honestly, I'd rather just go down to Dennis Smith Jr. Like, you're still getting almost $1,000 discount on him. I expect Smith Jr. to play probably 35 minutes here. And he's facing the worst defense in the league. Sure, a slow-paced Cleveland team, but a really rough defense. And I can rely on Dennis Smith Jr. to say, you know, get up 17 to 20 shots. I don't think that's unrealistic at all. See 15-plus potential assist opportunities. All of it's there for the taking for DSJ, and I think we'll continue to see solid games from him, especially in better matchups like this one.
Yeah, I mean, not that this is indicative of anything. It's a gigantically small sample size, but a 31.3% usage for Dennis Smith Jr. over the last 3 games. He's going to have the ball in his hands at all times with the Knicks. It's not going to be a situation where Doncic or anybody else is getting in his way. Fizdale is going to let him run that offense, and until that price point comes up a little bit more, he's going to get all the minutes and all the usage. So seems like a spot that I will be in on as well. Shooting guard is
gigantically small, by the way. I like it.
What's that? Oxymoron? Yeah, that's an oxymoron. Jumbo shrimp. Let's move on to shooting guard.
I always think of Forrest Gump.
Oh, you have to. You have to.
right?
Yeah.
You have to. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not just me.
No, it's not. I once ate at a what was it? Was it the Forrest Gump restaurant?
Bubblegum?
Bubba Gump. That's what Bubba Gump
Yeah.
restaurant I ate, and they had the signs where if you wanted your waiter to stop, you put a sign out that said "Stop Forrest Stop," and if your if your food was good, you just put out "Run Forrest Run." It was like then when I became a waiter, I was like, well, that's really terribly passive aggressive to put those signs out on a table instead of just
right?
waiting for your waiter to stop. Shooting guard up next, where it is Harden at 12K, and then we drop all the way down to Bradley Beal at 8,800. Doncic is here, Russell, McCollum, a lot of the point guards we've already talked about. You do get Andrew Wiggins at 6,500, I should say. He's been taking a ton of shots past 2 games. He has 47 and 51 DraftKings points, respectively. Price point has come up to 6,500. Middleton is at 6,400 against Chicago, which seems like a pretty nice spot. And then you get into the Bogdanoviches, Barton, Reggie Jackson, Jeremy Lambs. Who do you like? Do you go to a Beal here against Detroit, or do you find someone on a cheaper price point that you like a little bit more?
Yeah. One thing I did want to say too, with the LA Clippers guards, since I probably won't be talking too much about them, we saw Landry Shamet in his first game with the Clippers since being traded in the Tobias Harris trade. Played 27 minutes against Boston, had 17 points, 4 for 7 from 3. I know people will ask about him. He's $3,900. I would just urge you to keep one thing in mind. The bench brought them back from a 28-point deficit, right? Like the guys that closed the game out for the Clippers, they were down by 28 points. And also Kyrie Irving got hurt in the second quarter. Of course, I had a lot of him, and he looked really good too before getting hurt, tweaking that knee again. But they closed the game out with Gallinari, Beverly, Harrell, Williams, and Shamet. Seriously, think about that. You had Shamet, a guard, Williams, a guard, Beverly, a guard, and Gallinari, not a guard. But Doc Rivers loves running these 3-guard rotations, and especially with Harris gone and with Bradley gone, he's going to continue to do that. So you are going to get a lot of that, I would expect. But it could one game be Garrett Temple playing at the 2. It could be Gilgeous-Alexander. It's tough to say. So I just wanted to point out that while Shamet could get the minutes, I don't think this is a lock that he goes in and plays another 27 minutes because he played the final 15 minutes of that game. He did, however, play 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He played 12 minutes in the first half. So could he play another 24, 25? Sure. But 9 field goal attempts and 17 points, 28 fantasy points. It's, as you know, it's hard to replicate that when really all you do is shoot the ball and really don't provide anything else. Okay, so let's keep it moving here, Dan. We'll talk shooting guards. We talked Harden already. At the top, though, Doncic eligible on DraftKings. I still think he's fine on FanDuel, by the way. It's just 87 on DraftKings is absurd. The high-priced guys above 10K on DraftKings are Towns, George, Jokic, Antetokounmpo, Westbrook, and Harden. So you have 6 guys above 10K and 9 in total above 9K.
Yep.
And somehow Doncic is cheap. Doncic is what? The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He's the 12th highest priced player on DraftKings. To me, that sounds a little bit absurd. Like I would have him priced higher than Kawhi Leonard, higher than Kemba Walker, Blake Griffin, and Andre Drummond. I really would. So that just to give you an idea of where I think his value stands. I think it's high. The Miami Heat playing their second of a back-to-back, coming from the Oracle, going to the Pepsi Center to face Denver. By the way, if you bet on sports and you're not frequently betting Warriors third quarters or Warriors third halves, you're doing yourself a disservice. I was talking to you about this before the show. Just do it. I mean, I got to admit, I got Warriors -3.5 going into the third quarter. The third quarter line, the third quarter line. I think I got a live third quarter line. They were down 2-0 at the start of the third quarter. I got that bet in, and no joke, about 45 seconds later, they were -11.5. So if you get it in right at the beginning of the half, or at halftime, it's such a good bet. And I don't want to say it never fails, but if there was one most consistent NBA bet, Dan, I've said this to you for the past couple of years,
Yep.
especially when they're playing at home. It's the Warriors, and especially when they're trailing like they were in this one. And oftentimes at halftime they are. I feel like they just want to give the crowd a show.
Exactly.
I mean, really, it certainly feels that way. Who else here? Zach LaVine is just too cheap is the thing. You've got him against Milwaukee. Yes, very good defense, but they're playing at a very fast pace, great pace-up spot for LaVine and the Bulls. So I'm not against it. I mean, he's been getting run in blowouts too, and we saw him get run against Milwaukee when they got torched by them earlier in the season. So it's really not a terrible spot. I'd probably get up to, Murray or down to Murray where he's eligible, and then D'Angelo Russell's a little bit more expensive. So I don't think LaVine is a necessity here. And then you got like Chris Dunn at 6,300. So they're all cheap. I just don't know if you need to go there. I think if you're going to, though, a game stack is probably the most necessary spot because the Milwaukee Bucks are just a significantly better basketball team. One thing I've noticed when it with Reggie Jackson is when Ish Smith is playing, I'm still like Ish Smith has been sitting. He was out for a while and then he returned and then he was out. I still don't know how much he's influencing Reggie Jackson's minutes when he plays. Like Reggie Jackson played, what was it? He played 27 minutes last game in that win over New York. Now, 27 minutes is not what I want at that price point, but Reggie Jackson also played only 4 minutes in the fourth quarter, and then Dwayne Casey emptied the bench with, 3 minutes left. So he probably would have got up to 30 again there. And in that case, that would be okay. Ish Smith actually didn't close that game out or get the blowout run. No, I don't think Reggie Jackson's a crazy option here against the Washington Wizards, but his price is getting up a little bit to where I'm not as comfortable as I was when he was like 4,800 the other day. And obviously we advocated playing him pretty heavily. And then you've got Tim Hardaway.
Right.
I prefer him off the bench.
Totally. Yep.
Yeah. Adam and I discussed this. He said he expected him to start 2 games ago. And I said I thought he'd come off the bench. Adam was right. But we both agreed that he should be coming off the bench because they have zero firepower. And my whole idea was like, I know that, Giannis is going to kill them if you don't, put the line or change the lineup a little bit. And if you've got Kleber and Powell in the front court, but if you don't do that, and you have and Hardaway's in the starting, or if Hardaway's coming off the bench, at least you've got some offense, whereas they just have nothing. I mean, unless you're relying on newly acquired Justin Jackson. So 32 minutes for Hardaway today, or we'll say Sunday, in a 1-point win over Portland, a big 1-point win over Portland. 32 minutes, 9 for 18 shooting, really strong game. And I think if you're going to endear yourself to Carlisle, why not do it against a good team at home where he's played the most minutes since he's come to Dallas. So I think that's pretty important to consider there. He's going to start, but if he doesn't start, I'd like him even more. I still like him plenty here, though.
Rodney Hood saw a decent amount of run in his first game for Portland, 14 points. What else did he have here? Oh, there's maybe his second game with Portland. 14 points, 3 rebounds, and a steal in 25 minutes.
You're right. The second one was Sunday. He had 8 points in 25.
Oh, okay. So he's still 25, 24 minutes. He's 3,900. Any upside to someone like him on the cheap end, or is this just simply too small a sample and too few minutes in a matchup with Oklahoma City?
Remember you had mentioned that Ira Winderman said that that Magruder was supposed to start. Well, I looked that up after the show when I was writing the deep dive the next day, and you were right. He did say that Eric Spoelstra insinuated that. It didn't happen, though. Dion Waiters started. Dion Waiters played 32 minutes. He did not have a good game, only 12 points, 17 fantasy points. But he started the next game on Sunday. So we're recording this. It'll probably come out like around midnight. So just so everyone has an idea where we're at, midnight Eastern time. It's 10:46 here on the East Coast, and it's February 10th. So we're heading into the 11th. But on the I want to help everyone out here so they know it's okay. So this game is still going. The Heat are down by 1 point. Manny and I on SiriusXM like them, by the way, at minus or plus 14 quite a bit, but always third quarter Warriors. Miami just went up by a point, by the way. This should be a great finish. 54 seconds left. Dion Waiters played 40 minutes. He's on pace to play 41 minutes, Dan. 24 points, 9 for 18 shooting, 4 assists, 3 rebounds, a block, a steal. What I'm saying here is that with Waiters starting, with Waiters getting, either 32 or 40 minutes in a good game, I'd rather take the shot on him being as volatile, if not more than Hood, but also I think higher upside than Hood.
Totally.
So give me Waiters at pretty much the same price, especially if Spo continues to start him and play him 30-plus minutes.
Makes total sense. Let's go next to small forward where we have Giannis and Paul George over 10K, 10-3 for George. Giannis at 11-3. Kawhi Leonard is at 9,100. Wiggins, it's amazing drop-off here. So you have Leonard at 9,100, then Wiggins drops all the way down to 65. Middleton, Josh Richardson, Thaddeus Young is 6,200. Danilo Gallinari is 6K. Which Bogdanovich is this? Bojan Bogdanovich is 5,800. Sure, that's fine. Otto Porter Jr. is 5,700. What's that?
I said it's okay. Josh gets it wrong too. Someone had an amazing comment on the deeper dive. When Isaiah tell us your favorite moment throughout the time, and also when he's like, I love how the pronunciation, how do you say it? Somebody like me that is always, hammering on people's name pronunciation of players. He's like, I love how Laffy, rips everyone for pronouncing players' names wrong, but pronounces Adam's last name wrong every single show.
Was it Adam who left the comment?
No, it wasn't. But it's okay. So here's the funny thing: it's Adam Scherer, right?
Yeah.
But I'm engaged. I'll be married soon. My brother-in-law's last name is Schaar. It's Shar. Okay. Yep. And whenever I can't say it without saying Shar because I'm so familiar with that name and have been for so many years. But I thought it was a good comment. And I responded with, well, he's not a professional sports player, so what do I care?
He doesn't rate. He's
the type of guy that just doesn't care anyway. If I was like, all right.
Adam
Goldsmith. He'd be like, okay, yep. How you doing, Adam? Good.
When I did the pod with him last week, when we switched, so you're hockeying it up on Tuesday nights. So when we record the Wednesday morning one, I went to pronounce, I think Giannis. I went Giannis Antetokounmpo, and I was like, well, I can say it because Laffy's not here. And Adam goes, Dan, you can say whatever you want. You said my last name correctly.
You know what the funny thing is, though? He'll tell you, but he won't say it to me.
No, of course not.
How many shows have I done with him? Why wouldn't he just be like, hey, it's Cher? And the problem, I know it's Cher. Like, the way it's obvious, but it's just a natural inclination for me to say, why would you not? Of the hundreds and hundreds of times that I've said it, be like, hey, by the way, it's Cher. He's just a guy. Let's do it.
So good. Okay. So good. How you doing, Adam? Good. I'm doing good. All right. Yeah, fantastic. Okay. Thanks for checking in. Small forward, what do you got here? Jabari Parker is down here at 5,600 along with Trevor Ariza for the Washington Wizards. But from top end on through, is it a Paul George sort of day against Portland? Do you like Wiggins against the Clippers? What do you got?
Paul George keeps dominating.
He really does.
This isn't a fluke for anyone that's, been staying away from him because, you know what I mean? Staying away from Paul George because like, oh, he's got to come back down to earth. Not
he's
really.
Good at basketball. I mean,
yeah, he's outstanding. Man, this is easily the best season of his career. And It's not close. I mean, not to mention that defensively, he's stellar too.
And bucking the trend for stars leaving the Thunder and becoming better when they get outside of Westbrook's orbit. He's made it work.
He has. Yeah. It was tough with Oladipo and plenty of other guys. He is definitely. You're not going to say that. Actually, I'll tell you what, they coexist really well together. Yep. I would say. And Westbrook, it's funny because you don't hear or see anything, and even body language makes things pretty obvious on the court, right? You watch a game, you can tell when guys are frustrated. They don't have to say anything. Westbrook seems to be enjoying himself. So whatever, he's still since the start of January, he's still distributing, racking up passes at a 50% clip. 1.6 fantasy points per minute. But Paul George, the funniest thing is Paul George and Westbrook both have a 30% usage rate since the start of 2019. And Westbrook's still a better per minute guy. He's at 1.6, George at a also elite 1.42. But the truth is, Paul George with 30% usage, he's just a better shooter.
Right.
And if you look at the amount of free throw attempts he's had, 18, 7, 16, 12, that's over his last 4 games. I mean, getting to the line. Yeah, I have no problem with him, particularly though at 10-3 on DraftKings. So that would be one of those areas where I have quite a bit of interest against Portland, playing their second of a back-to-back. I don't think we have a line on this game yet, though. Yes, we do. I'm sorry. Oakland 6.5-point favorites, 231 total. So we should expect to see a lot of scoring in this game for sure. Kawhi Leonard against Brooklyn. I'm not generally an advocate of playing him, but I do think this could be one of those spots where Kawhi, if he's very, very overlooked and under-owned, then I'll be on board. If Kawhi's going to be popular, I just never really see a reason to play him. But my guess is that you look at his recent games, he hasn't been very good. A lot of people will shy away from a player when that's the case. Oh, he's shooting less, he's doing this, doing that. Marc Gasol's in town. But Kawhi Leonard is still very capable of putting up monster numbers here. He's sub 10K on FanDuel, 9,100 on DraftKings. Brooklyn leads the league in pace over the last 30 days. And there should be a spot where Kawhi Leonard can get it done. Of course, check out our ownership projections at awesemo.com so we could see where he's expected to come in at, because that's going to play an important role. Now, the mid-range is not bad, though. For one, Danilo Gallinari is one where he played, only 29 minutes last game, but still was very efficient. The funny thing, though, only 10 field goal attempts. I talk about this a lot. Like with Gallo, you need him to be efficient to justify it, and it's rare that Gallo's going to go out there and have a good game when shooting it efficiently, because he's just not ever going to be a 20 shot per game guy. With Harris gone, you could see it increase. One game is not everything, and it was against the tough Boston defense. But at 6K against Minnesota, I'm on board with this. I have no problem with Gallo. And then Otto Porter in 2 games with Chicago has been pedestrian at best, but he's played 34 minutes in both. Not a crazy spot to consider him here. $5,700 on DraftKings is at least a good enough price tag. And then one more we'll throw out for your New York Knicks. Tournament play only. This is a sketchy play who really, if he's not scoring, he's not getting it done. Kevin Knox, 40 minutes last game, 35 and 34, 2 prior to that, 35, 40, and the 2 prior than that. His minutes are through the roof, so he doesn't need to produce at a high per minute clip to be decent at $5,000 on DraftKings and $4,600 on FanDuel. That's really, really discounted for someone that we know is at least going to have an opportunity to score on a low usage team, or elite team with low usage players outside of DSJ. Not the worst spot you could go there.
All right, let's move on to power forward, where you have Giannis, Paul George, Kawhi at the top. Then you get Blake, Lauri Markkanen, Kevin Love with what was it, his foot acting back up again? Why he?
No, they said it was scheduled.
As planned, and they did. Oh, I didn't see that at all. That's
rough. I mean, it's not like we're going to play him. I would have expected like 20 minutes. It's funny because he was sidelined with not a lower body injury. I'm sorry. No, it was the foot. Toe, right? It was a toe. Yeah, it was a toe. For some reason, I thought it was his.
I thought he was. I listen. Every one of the subscribers who's in Awesemo Slack chat, I love you all. But from reading chat, it seemed as though he was 20 or 30% owned. He was not, I assume, right?
I can't imagine.
Okay, all right. Just it seemed like he was much higher owned than he should have been, or would have been.
Was he owned at all?
I will have to go back and look. I don't know. I can find that somewhere.
Because he was 7,500. That sounds insane in a first game back. I don't know. By the way, Warriors pulled that off. Of course, they managed to win that game. That should come as a surprise to absolutely nobody. So just letting you know.
Well, good teams win. Great teams cover. So
I like it. Well, they didn't cover.
That's what I'm saying. They're not a great team.
It was on, looks like two Cousins free throws.
There it is.
Yeah, wow. Tied game, Cousins.
That's why you bring DeMarcus Cousins in. Crunch time free throws.
Yeah, well, hey, better than Kevon Looney.
Oh, no. That's a story on to a different night. What do you got here, power forward? We already sort of went through the top end with Giannis, Paul George, Kawhi. We can rehash or dive in deeper on any of them. But Blake, Lauri Markkanen, Fareed is here at 6,800. His prices seem to have plateaued a bit here. Harrell against Minnesota. Pascal Siakam at 6,500 against Brooklyn. What else do you got?
All right. A lot of these guys have multi-position eligibility, so I won't get into that. We talked George and Giannis and Kawhi. Blake Griffin against Washington. Interesting spot. I really, even though he was cheap, I didn't land on much Griffin, and I haven't recently, just because there've been so many other guys that are priced so nicely, and I know they're not the same position, but if you're going Doncic or Griffin, and you have the cap for either one of them, I'm probably still going Doncic here. Don't get me wrong. I think it's a perfectly good spot for Blake, no question. But how much will I land on it? I don't know. That's another question. Markkanen has been really impressive, man. The rebounding through the roof. He scored 30-plus points in 3 straight games before coming back down to earth a bit last game with 20 and 11 against Washington. He has seen his price increase, and he is facing Milwaukee, but you should at least expect to see upwards of 35, 36 minutes here, which is nice. I'm not against rostering Markkanen. I wish it wasn't the Bucks, but at least you're getting the pace up spot. It's not a Memphis team, when Memphis was good defensively, I didn't trade everyone away, where they were good on defense, but also played at a crawling pace.
Right.
That hurts. How about Larry Nance, though? Larry Nance Jr. started, now keep this in mind, he started at power forward last game and not center, which isn't fun, but it doesn't matter because Marcus Chris is still such a terrible rebounder that it's not like you're throwing Tristan Thompson in there. You're putting Marcus Chris in there, who doesn't rebound at all. Nance had his second straight game with 40 or more fantasy points, huge minutes in each of his last 2. Somehow he's still under 6K on DraftKings, which to me is insane. Now, what I would expect to see here is, and he's 71 on FanDuel, which I'll tell you why I'm actually not totally opposed to it. Yes, DeAndre Jordan, definitely an upgrade. Their defense and the front court have gotten better in New York. But if Nance is still going to see these minutes, then, hey, why not? Now, will he see 39? Probably not. But 33, 34 is a possibility. Marcus Chris started last game. I don't expect that to be the case. But Kevin Love, if they really only played him 6 minutes last game and it was planned and it was scheduled, then how many minutes is he really going to play here? 12?
Right.
So, yeah, I still have Nance around 33 minutes, and I think that's pretty reasonable. Serge Ibaka is another one. What do we do with Ibaka with Gasol here? Does Gasol continue to come off the bench? I don't know.
I think it will for the foreseeable future. I really do. I think you'll see Gasol more of the second unit facilitator, overlap a little bit with Lowry and Kawhi, but I think you'll see him off the bench for 18 to 22 until they really figure out what they're going to be.
Yeah, I mean, they're still a good team. If that's the case and we get some word from Nick Nurse, I don't mind 28, 30 minutes from Serge Ibaka against the Brooklyn Nets.
Right.
Like, what a good spot for opposing centers this is. Pretty much all around, it puts Ibaka in a very favorable position. So most of the guys up at the top we already talked about, so I won't really get back into repeating all of that. Will Hazonia start another game over Noah Vonleh? Keep an eye on it. I don't know, but he might open up a little bit of value. Played 25 minutes last game, 33 the game before that. I'm not a big fan of Hazonia, but if you're desperate for some value, he's there, assuming he starts. Maxi Kleber is another one. Very disappointing. Yet last game, the game prior to that, was also not great. He's going to play between 25 and 27 minutes, probably start at center against a small Houston team. But unless you have anybody, and of course, Marvin Williams, just because he's very inexpensive. I don't love the spot against Indiana, but he's $4,500 on DraftKings. He is playing significant minutes, 55 on FanDuel. So I like the DraftKings price point more. But if you're getting 35 minutes a night from Marvin Williams, you could do better at a position that in the mid-range and at the bottom really is not that deep.
Is tonight a Jake Layman night?
Well, it's a good question.
He's playing a lot of so you host and I host shows, and I have to stay up to speed on season-long NBA as much as it's not my wheelhouse. He's one of the most added players on the waiver wire. And he's playing 26 to 30 minutes a night for the Portland Trailblazers. Now, the points aren't always there, but he had a big night, 2 games or 3 games back at this point. 4,200. Again, I'm not somebody who's playing multiple lineups. I'm not worried as much as maybe an MMEer would be about ownership or somebody playing in a higher volume. Is he worth at least being in this initial player pool as we look through?
Yeah, I'm unsure. And here's the reason. Layman was getting those minutes, and then we saw Rodney Hood come into the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
He played 24 minutes. They have some more bodies than they did before Layman's last game. He played on Sunday, played 25 and a half minutes. So I think that's probably where he comes in around, not 31 to 33. The game flows aren't available to us yet. I don't think it's crazy. It is a pace-up spot, but a tough spot. Let me look at that. I'll highlight it in the deep dive once I get to go through the game flow and see how he was affected, if at all, by the acquisitions that Portland made.
All right, let's close it out with center. Obviously, if we get 26 to 30 minutes of Marc Gasol, this is a great spot for him at 7K against the Nets. Just don't know if that's going to happen. You do have Jokic, Towns, Drummond, Nurkic, Whiteside, and then you get to Gasol here at 7K, and Markkanen, Griffin, and Love all power forward and center eligible. Of the 7K and above crowd, we'll say Gasol and up, who stands out the most to you?
All right. Domantas Sabonis played 30 minutes last game, by the way, but Miles Turner did get injured, and he eventually returned, but he played only 22 minutes, so don't expect Sabonis to get back up to 30 minutes. I don't think he's crazy played, but definitely not expecting that type of run, or even close for that matter. One of my favorite plays on the entire slate is Karl Anthony Towns against the Clippers. You know, they've struggled mightily to defend opposing centers all year long. They're dead last or bottom 3 in like points, assists, or points, rebounds, and blocks allowed. Of course, efficiency, field goal percentage, all of it. They are towards the bottom. And you could say, yeah, but that's a different front court. Zubats is not going to make a big difference defensively compared to like a Marcin Gortat or a Boban Marjanovic. You know, Montrezl Harrell is still going to play 28 to 30 minutes. And then from Zubats, you're going to get, 20, 23 minutes. And it's still going to be a really favorable spot for centers. I love this for Towns. Clippers are a faster-paced team, playing better defense lately, but still not an imposing defense, or specifically their front court defense is the furthest thing from scary. So we don't have a line on this game yet. I expect Minnesota to be like -2, -1. It's a really evenly matched game. But, man, I really do like Karl Anthony Towns here, and I think everyone should. I like Drummond at sub 9K. Like I talked about, though, when you're looking at guys like Doncic and others in the same tier, how often do you get to Drummond? I don't know. I'm not sure if that's a question I can answer right now. I'll have to see, again, what ownership's going to look like. It's going to play an important role with these high-priced guys, at least for me. Kenneth Faried, people – I know his prices come up, so everybody gets a little bit nervous, but he's still playing well. He's still playing 30-plus minutes a night. He's going to go up against like Maxi Kleber and Dwight Powell, and
right.
Salah Mesri was just re-signed, and some Dirk Nowitzki. Like, I do still think that this is a good spot for Faried. He should get the minutes. He's the only center they can rely on right now, and he's doubling on a nightly basis. So the DraftKings, I like him a little bit more there based on their scoring. And then I'll throw him out there because the upside is immense. Hopefully you listened to the early bird, you read the deep dive, listened to the deeper dive, or watched it, and weren't afraid by the YouTube comments and people saying, I'll never play Hassan Whiteside, because Whiteside has slate breaking upside. If he was playing 35 minutes a night, he'd easily be a 10K player. He'd probably be around the same price as Karl Anthony Towns. There's big risk, no question. But Spoelstra was gushing over him against that win over Portland afterwards, saying, he made a huge impact, the way he boxes players out, the way he's reacts on the boards, his ability to score, function in the pick and roll, putbacks, you name it. But look at him over his last 3 games, 31-20 or 31-30 and 28 minutes. Wish he played more in that last game. But still, if you played him at 6,800, you were really happy. 54 fantasy points, a monster first quarter. and then followed it up with a few other solid frames. Is it a risk? No question. But at his price, there's still meat left on that bone, Dan. And when it comes down to it, that's what we're playing for. And I expect Whiteside to go completely overlooked in this spot.
All right. Any cheap guys at center who stand out? I know you talked about a lot of the mid-range. Anybody stand out from a way down on the list here?
Well, Yusuf Nurkic is still too inexpensive on DraftKings. Like if he's going to stay that cheap, then I'll continue to roster him happily. He's 87 on FanDuel, 76 on DraftKings, and I would once again expect if he doesn't foul out or if the game doesn't blow out, for Nurkic to have a solid game. He had 35 he had 18, 10 double in 21 minutes against Dallas on Sunday before fouling out. The upside is absolutely there. And once again, though, just barring foul trouble or a blowout, you have to at least consider him at that salary. And I guess I'll throw Zubats in here, Dan. I don't expect to see a great game, but there isn't a lot of value here. He did play 23 minutes in his Clippers debut, and got up 10 shots, had a strong performance. He's 4K on DraftKings, which is perfectly fine with me. On FanDuel, Zubats is weighing in at 3,900. Do you want to spend your center spot there? Probably not, but he's cheap enough when there's really not much value at center.
So we were talking about Whiteside there. Whiteside on Sunday night just played 22 minutes, 13 points, 12 rebounds, 3 assists.
That's expected against the Warriors.
Right. And so
even with Drummond there, or Cousins, and Cousins doesn't even play that many minutes right now. He played 26. So I don't think it's crazy.
No, Heat Twitter is a little upset that you had Bam Adebayo in the final seconds instead of Whiteside against Cousins. Adebayo fouled, causing the foul shots, putting Cousins at the line.
That's crazy. I didn't know that.
So Heat Twitter upset, but more to the point, and I think this is something that still goes overlooked, that centers don't play well against the Golden State Warriors. It's just something they do well of changing the game for them. So when you look at the box score on Monday and say, well, you only played 22 minutes on Monday, I want to get your take, or Sunday, get your take exactly what you said before I even asked it. The matchup wasn't there. And whether or not Spoelstra was right or not right for playing him limited minutes, that does tend to be the case against the Golden State Warriors. So don't get scared off by less minutes in this matchup.
But I mean, he didn't even close. He didn't even close Whiteside against Portland when Whiteside was one of the main reasons Whiteside was one of the main reasons they won that game. You know what I mean? That stuff is concerning, and it definitely sucks. But you're taking a risk. You know that he's not. He's not he's a volatile player. It was against Sacramento, and that was a game that they actually had the lead up until the last 2 minutes when Whiteside was off. He got pulled with 2 minutes left. They were up, and then they lost the game by, I think, 6 or 7 points. Not closing him out in spots like that against the Kings, to me, it doesn't make any sense. It's not like Bam Adebayo's some type of amazing player with way superior defense. And to me, if that was the case, it'd be different, but it's not.
All right, let's close it out with our question we ask every time. We have a decent amount to choose from here. Karl Anthony Towns at 10, Paul George at 10.3, Jokic at 10.4, Giannis at 11.3, Russ at 11.4, and then Harden at 12K flat. You're building one lineup. Who are you building it around?
You know what, man? As much as we know any of these guys could just put the nail in the coffin if you don't have them, I really like Karl Anthony Towns. Still 10K flat, facing the Clippers at home. Really, really rough interior defense and rebounding from the Clippers. They've also had their shot blocked third most in the league, so some stocks opportunities for Towns. Hopefully you can grab some steals as well. Towns at 10K will be my guy for now.
All right, that's where we're going to close it out. Don't forget, if you are watching on YouTube or if you're listening on iTunes, head on over to YouTube, subscribe, like this video, hit the thumbs up button, and then leave a comment. And we're going for what's been your favorite moment thus far on the podcast, specifically at Osmo.com, the DFS early bird. Leave a comment. You'll be entered to win 1 year. That's a 1-year subscription worth $700 at Osmo.com. The folks who run the site are looking to thank everyone for the year since they launched last time around, I think it was February 15th of 2018. They will pick one name at random on February 13th because obviously the NBA break will preclude us from using that date to pull the winner. So enter by leaving a comment, subscribing to the channel, liking this video, and you'll get a chance. As I said before, head on over to Twitter as well, at Awesemo_com, where another giveaway is going on. Find Dave at Lofty_D, LOUGHY_D. Find me at Dan Strafford. And of course, tomorrow you find EMAC, you find Adam right here on the DFS Early Bird, presented by Awesemo.com.